Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to Joy News today. We're coming to you live from our studios in Kokomlemle. We are on DTT because we're free to on DSTV channel 421 and Gold TV channel 125. We are a home of independent, fearless and credible journalism. Coming up this afternoon, former chairman of the Anti-Galamsey Committee, Professor Frimpong says he feels victimized over his invitation by the Office of the Special Prosecutor, which later turned into an arrest. Also, Pension Bondholders Forum prepares to drag the Ministry of Finance to charge for a determination on their demand for interest on all accrued principals. And the Electoral Commission urges opposition NDC to desist from what it says are unjustifiable attacks on its integrity. Plus, on our next episode of Potholes Exhibition, we'll take you to the Ashanti region town of Bokrum to show you how damaging the deadly potholes-riddled roads have become to both motorists and residents. In business, Registrar of Companies urges professional bodies to renew certificates or risk being expunged from companies' register. We have world news and business, sports, all coming up shortly. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. Do stay for details. Former chairman of the Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining, Professor Frimpong says he feels victimized over his invitation by the Office of the Special Prosecutor, which later became an arrest for which he was granted a 2 million Ghana cedi bail. He says he was surprised by the treatment meted out to him, given his selfless contributions to the country. Speaking in an exclusive interview with Joy News on the back of reports of his arrest and subsequent release 2 weeks ago by the Special Prosecutor, the revered heart surgeon recounted his experience.
As we go along in life in this country, others who have the power now or who have the influence now should know that at some point they will hold accountable for what they are doing.
Do you feel you're being victimized?
I think so.
Why do you think so?
What have I done wrong in this country? If 0.001% of people behave like what I've done, this country will not be the way it is. I mean, look, I bought a whole hospital, trained people, Ghanaians, heart surgeons, trained people from Nigeria, Ethiopia, changed Kolebu after Gojisberg and Nkrumah. Frimpong was the person who added structures and systems to Kolebu, with internally generated funds, not money from the government. I changed the way Ghana Red Cross functioned. As chairman of the PIC, I did a lot for this country. And as minister, I introduced a lot of things. If I pursue them, we have made a lot of change in this country. The things that I initiated when I was minister, most of them have been abandoned. So what I'm saying is that I'm not perfect. But in all my life, throughout my life, I have always thought about Ghana.
Professor Frimpong says a field close to the president's Kyebi residence was used for illegal mining activities.
We vegetated that field. If we had planted cocoa, it would have been yielding fruits by now, after 3-4 years. So it's not that you go there and you find pits, freshly dug pits and gullies and so on. This happened 4 years ago. The place was cleared, vegetated, and so what I'm saying is that it happened. So that's what I say for now.
I asked that because the traditional authorities sent journalists there to verify the claim, and according to the traditional authorities, there's no evidence that the president's garden was affected by illegal mining.
I don't want to argue with them. If they say it wasn't affected, I'm saying that. We went there, and did what we were supposed to do. And I don't know why we should even argue about this. It's not that we did this to slight or somebody. But we were concerned that in a field near the president's house, somebody was doing something illegal.
Okay, it wasn't near the president's house, not his garden.
No, I mean a garden. I don't know what you mean. So it's not that there's a house walled, there's a garden inside, and no, I'm not talking about that kind of thing.
So this is an area close to the president's house in Kyebi.
I don't know what you mean by close, but what I'm saying is that the field was there, and the caretaker said they had encroached on a little bit of the garden, so not in the house. So if you realize, were you the one who went there?
No, I didn't go there, but we had a reporter who went there as well.
We went to a house. What were you expecting to see? Gullies and mountains and things like that. 4 years. Leveled the place, vegetated the place. As I said, if I planted cocoa or even palm, we would have been harvesting fruits.
Well, anti-corruption campaigner Vitus Azim says he is sad about how the Professor Frimpong Boateng's report has been handled by government, adding it is an indictment on the president, especially after making a strong pledge to end the menace. He spoke with me a while ago.
Well, that is a very sad indictment of the president, especially with his commitment to fighting the Galamsey, which is also linked to his commitment to fighting corruption. You see, when you have somebody in charge of something, the field comes with a report. You need to take your time to study the report, or at least refer to the appropriate institution to study it and advise you. But for you to just conclude that, issue a statement that it is unfounded, based on unfounded allegations and all that, that already is an indication that you don't want to accept, or you don't even want to consider the issues that the president has raised. Some of them may not be unfounded, but there may be some issues there that are very viable. So you need to study before you conclude. And so if the president didn't do that, immediately just concluded that, well, there was nothing in this, and you dismissed it, followed by some of his people also dismissing it, it's difficult for anybody to say that he's committed to the fight against Galamsey.
Have we lost the fight against Galamsey and, for that matter, corruption?
Yes, I think the two are linked. The two are linked, and I would say that yes, it appears, I think we've lost the fight against Galamsey, both Galamsey and corruption. And those are the issues that are contributing to our present economic crisis. And until we wake up to that realization, we don't have a way forward.
But why so, Mr. Azim?
Well, there are a number of issues. One, the political leadership, as we have all both said, is not committed to it. Then the rest of us, including those who are close to the president, who should be working to help the president to handle the situation, are also interested in their personal interests. And we as citizens, we are not contributing enough, we are not reporting these things, we are not demanding, like going into the streets and demonstrating and demanding that the president does something about it. So there are three issues. The leadership itself, those in positions of trust or influential positions that are not supporting it, and then the rest of us Ghanaians. Then, of course, people give the example, the excuse of the high rate of unemployment in the country. The youth have nothing to do, but when they go to the site and come back, they have something in their pocket to spend. So it may not even be politically expedient for the government to try to curb or curtail Galamsey, because you promise people jobs and you're not able to get them the job. So when they find something that they can do, it may be difficult for you to say that they shouldn't do it. So it's a complex things that are cyclical. And then, of course, I've mentioned corruption also fuels Galamsey. So it's not one thing that you can point to and say, this is why it's the situation like this. There are a number of issues surrounding it and a number of actors that are involved. or should have been acting, but they are not acting.
Meanwhile, experts in the extractive industry are warning of grave consequences if Ghana goes ahead to extract bauxite in the Tiwa forest. It's been estimated that 1.7 trillion will be spent in 2023 alone on clean technologies due to the dramatic spike in demand for metals and minerals worldwide. This has raised concerns among environmentalists, civil society and industry about the need to decarbonize the process for extraction. Co-chair of the Ghana Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, Dr. Steve Manteao, is warning any attempt by government to degrade the Tiwa forest will not augur well for the country. Between year 2000 and 2019, 3,264 kilometers square of forest was directly lost due to industrial mining, with 80% occurring in Ghana, Brazil, Indonesia, and Suriname. Ghana signed on to the Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative in 2003 and is among 55 countries that have agreed to a common set of rules to promote good governance in the management of its natural resources. The Tiwa Range is the site of an important forest reserve and the source of 3 major rivers. It contains ancient bauxitic soils. Experts say there's enough bauxite in this forest, but we must be cautious of the destruction that we can cause by thinking of exploiting these bauxites and other minerals in this forest.
Tiwa has enormous resources that can generate revenues for the state. The medicinal plants, the water sources from here, a lot of the rivers drain from from this forest. We are talking about the Densu, we are talking about Brim, we are talking about Ayensu. They all take their source from the forest. So if we are going to destroy this forest, that invariably is going to mean that we are destroying our water sources, and therefore quantifying what the effect will be downstream. Those of us who rely on these rivers for drinking water is just unthinkable. And so we need at all costs to be able to identify certain land areas in this country that are no-go areas for mining, based on what purpose they serve and how they contribute to our own human development.
In the middle of the Tiwa forest is the Supon River, which feeds into the Birim River, a key source of drinking water for people in the eastern region. We are currently at the Supon River in the Tiwa forest. You can see how clean the water is, but if you move just a little further from here, you will see that the water has been destroyed and you cannot even think of drinking the water. Deputy National Director of Conservationist Group, Arocha Ghana, Darrell Bosu, says the current high turbidity level of the river, which stands at 11.5 NTU, must prompt government to maintain its quality.
Most of these communities don't have access to pipe-borne water, so when these rivers flow out, that is where they fetch for their daily use and also other domestic and industrial activities. And we believe that if we want to sustain the activities of communities and their livelihood and also their health, rivers like these, which is devoid of contamination, needs to be prioritized and protected. But what we have also seen is that you can't have clear rivers like these without forests. And that is why we believe that Tiwa, which is on record to be a critical hydrological gem for Ghana, must be protected in the long term, because already, aside Sejimase, there are about 5 million other people who depend on rivers coming from the forest. And they go from people in the city, in Accra, to central region, and even to the eastern region, and even connecting to River Pra, which serves people in the western region. So it's clearly an important ecosystem that we cannot allow anything to touch it. Now, if you step out of this forest, you realize that the rivers there are very, very polluted. And it's all because there's illegal activities going on there.
Programs Officer West Africa at the Ford Foundation, Emmanuel Koyuli, says the next EITI conference, scheduled for June 13 this year, will deliberate on sanctioning member countries who disobey the rules on protecting their natural resources.
I think it's important to include sanctions into the process. Unfortunately, the EITI process, first of all, is voluntary, so it's not an initiative that can force governments to set. But it's important that once a country makes commitment, like Ghana and many other countries have made commitment to the process, that they include very stringent sanctions so that if you don't comply and ensuring that your communities are protected in this process, then you either kicked out, not just being kicked out from the EITI process, but other sanctions, including financial sanctions. There's no point if we move away from fossil fuels through a process that destroys forests. So the simple message is that leave the forests alone.
The EITI standards advocates effective citizen participation. Mr. Koyoli says without such participation, there is a danger of serious environmental damage, corruption and social harm. Aisha Ibrahim, Joy News, Etiwa Forest. Back here in Accra, Pension Bondholders Forum says it has resolved to drag the Ministry of Finance to the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice charge. This comes after the ministry indicated its inability to pay the interest demanded by the bondholders on all matured principals since February 2023. We can listen to convener of the group, Dr. Edouane Entry, who spoke to the media after that meeting with the Finance Ministry.
The pensioners are asking for payment of interest on the delayed principals. The issue is that is the money they are using to invest, to get interest, to buy their medication and fend for themselves. So if you have delayed it, in some cases over 100, today one is 108 days. We are saying you can't keep the money for free. Pay interest on it as you were paying when the amount, the principal was fulfilled. So once we haven't returned the principal, we are asking for payment of interest. Government say it cannot do that. It can't pay the interest. We have said that if government is not going to do that, we still want it to be done. And so in that case, we will need an arbiter. So we have suggested that we will submit the matter to SHRAG, for SHRAG to go into and tell us whether we have the right to take to demand the interest or not. So we have decided that we will do an official letter to government demanding the interest payment on the delay coupons, and government is going to respond. The delayed principal, we are going to send a letter, official letter, on the demand for interest on the delayed principals. And then we know the response of the government, but the government will also put it in writing. When we get this, then we see where we are going to take the matter. And we have already said that perhaps the first place we will go is SHRAG, for SHRAG to agitate on this matter, whether the issuer must keep our money when it is due to be returned to us and deprive us of investment income. So that matter definitely will land at the doorsteps of SHRAG.
James Avaji has been monitoring the activities of the Pension Bondholders Forum with the Ministry of Finance. We know that there's been a series of meetings with the Finance Ministry. What was today's meeting about? So on Thursday, we know that the Deputy Minister of Finance, Abina Osei-Asari, came to meet the bondholders at the picketing, and so she scheduled for a meeting on last week Friday. And as part of that meeting was to resolve the issues of their principals that have been with the ministry for the past 4 months. And so they went into that meeting with the leadership of the bondholders. And then the proposal from the bondholders was that since the government has decided to keep their monies for 4 months, they needed to pay an interest on those principals. But the ministry suggested that they would not be able to make that payment. And so the leadership of the bondholders say, okay, we are not the only owners of the monies. The money belongs to our members, and so they cannot take a unilateral decision on behalf of the members. And so the ministry agreed to meet
all members of the pensioner bondholders today in order to put the proposal to them again and expect a feedback from them. And so that is what necessitated today's meeting into that negotiation.
And the feedback is that they do not agree with that.
Yes, the feedback is that they have all resolved unilaterally to reject government proposal to not to pay the interest on those principles that have been accrued.
And take the matter up in
to Stratch to determine whether they, the bondholders, are right in calling for an interest on their business capital that have stayed with the issuer for the past 4 months. Then Stratch would determine that.
We know that there's also a fresh proposal on their yet to mature coupons. What are they? Tell us about it.
Exactly. So government is saying that because we have not been able to pay the accrued, the matured principals, previously matured principals, what they want to do now is to buy all of the principals that will be maturing between June and December this year. They want to take all of that and sort of roll it over. For those of them who would agree, do a rollover or push those principals into the capital market and maybe put it on, how do we call it, roll it over or use it to buy treasury bills for them. And so that was another proposal from the government. But the response from the bondholders is that even if you want to do that, we still would want you to attach our coupons that will be maturing or the interest that will be maturing together with those principals because they have stayed with you for a period of time. And so if, for instance, the total principal is 20 million Ghana cedis, just for instance, and the interest on all of them will be 10 million Ghana cedis. We want you to roll over 30 million Ghana cedis or use 30 million Ghana cedis to buy the treasury bills for us.
And not just 20
and
million,
not just the 20 million cedis. But government is also already taking a position that they would want to roll over only the principal, which will be, for instance, the 20 million Ghana cedis, without the coupons that will be maturing on them. And so that was the suggestion. And looks like when you measure the response from the bondholders, it looks like even if that proposal comes to the table formally, they will not be able to accept that because it will be like shortchanging them in their investment. And so that is what the meeting has been so far. But they are hopeful that, on Thursday, the assurance is that the 4 principals that they are calling for interest now, government will be paying only the principals in the next 2 weeks. And so 1 week will be exhausted on Friday, which is tomorrow. They are hopeful that maybe in the next 1 week, they may be able to get the principals. The coupons that the government promised on Thursday to pay immediately, till now, they have not cleared those coupons yet.
Well, we'll be looking keenly into this and definitely we'll be telling our viewers the outcome of all of that. Let's move on to other stories. The Electoral Commission is urging the opposition NDC to desist from what it says are unjustified attacks on its integrity. The party has in the last week engaged in a spirited banter with the commission alleging a plot with the NPP to insert an unqualified candidate into their Sin North voters register. This accusations comes at a time the commission is preparing to hold a by-election on June 27. Director of Electoral Services at the EC, Dr. Frimpong, says the commission remains focused and expects the cooperation of the NDC. He's been speaking to my colleague, Evans Mensah.
That is a challenge we have in this country. Most often than not, when a party is in opposition, the Electoral Commission becomes the whipping boy. Any small issues, they will whip the Electoral Commission without any grounds. So if you look at the statement, we said that if they have any contrary view, they should provide. And I don't think there's any contrary view. So we are already putting across that they should stop attacking the Commission when they have no grounds to attack the Commission. Whether we like it or not, we are stakeholders in the game. The parties cannot do elections without the Electoral Commission. And the Electoral Commission too cannot conduct elections without the parties sponsoring candidates. So we are in it together. But the continuous attack and the rest doesn't help anybody. Recently, we did the election for the
parliamentary and presidential and the rest. The law doesn't require us to supervise for them. It's not backed by any law. But when they came, we went and did it for them. And they were even prisoners. So what has changed? So our concern is that if we are not saying that if you're doing something bad, you shouldn't talk of it. But when there's none, you don't smear us like that. So that's what we were trying to do.
Your relationship with the NDC, how would you describe it?
Very cordial. Really? Apart from the radio issues, that time when we were doing the elections, the current chairman and they came and we had a nice meeting. They took a lot of pictures of the commission and the rest. When we meet and we are chatting, you won't believe that these are the people who are in the media complaining about each other. We are very cordial. Very, very cordial. We have very cordial relationship.
But
we are not enemies.
Cordial relationship in private, but enemies in public.
That is the problem. It's not I won't say that in public. It's one I don't know the way how to describe it. But in public, when we meet us, we talk, we chat. We do everything together. I wouldn't want to give examples. But some of us are even classmates, schoolmates, we do courses together and the rest. We meet and we talk about our school days and the rest. But when there's an issue that we discuss, at times for political reasons, they will just give it to you, but when they finish, I remember there was a time, I'm not referring to anything, one of them went on air, I didn't listen, but it's like he attacked me. So one said, oh, and then we came out by understand the politics and don't get offended.
Communications Minister Eslo Usu says plans are far advanced to enact a legal framework to regulate the use of artificial intelligence in Ghana. According to her, the draft framework has already gone through Parliament. Her comment follows a statement delivered in Parliament by Tamale South MP Haruna Idris on the potential harmful use of AI.
In Africa and particularly Ghana, the benefits of artificial intelligence are really apparent. AI offers myriad of potential benefits for Ghana. The system relies on algorithms and machine learning to analyze data and make predictions. AI is one of the most transformative technologies of our time. As a country embarks on digital innovation and attempts to mainstream ICT in all aspects of our public national life, leveraging on AI for economic growth, development and digital transformation must be an urgent consideration of our country if we are to secure tomorrow's competitive future, which will be driven largely by technology and by AI. Mr. Speaker, human rights standards, data protection laws, and ethical principles are all necessary to guide, regulate, and manage the use of artificial intelligence. We need to ensure strict adherence to responsible AI principle. Ghana needs to ready itself for an AI future, to reap AI benefits and mitigate its threats. Policy must necessarily respond to the opportunities AI offers.
MP for Agotime Charles Agbeve also warned that immediate action is needed to regulate the use of AI. He cited recent phenomenon where some people have used AI to make music using the voice of known artists.
When we checked, it was released by a TikTok user called Ghostwriter 1977. So it took the management of the artist to quickly get to TikTok and Spotify to remove this particular song on the platforms. When it was investigated, this Ghostwriter 977 used AI to reproduce a new song using an artist's name, an artist's style, an artist's lyrics. Mr. Speaker, I'm wondering if this had happened to any of our artists in this country. What regulation, what rules can be used to salvage the situation? Because 9 million views on TikTok is no small money. It's being used now to generate a lot of money. And that's why I share in the recommendations by the maker of the statement that we need policy, we need regulation.
Minister Kojo Nkrumah also agreed that there's an urgent need to regulate the use of artificial intelligence.
I agree with the honourable member's point that some architecture around legislation or regulation needs to be contemplated. Because if you take even the discovery of the atom in 1803 or so, in 1903 or so, the whole atomic theory conversation, today the people who propounded those theories are beginning to get worried as to what it has led to, the atomic bomb and other things. And similarly, those who worked on AI, if you read some of the contemporary literature, are beginning to worry about the potentials. And so it is opportune time for us to start considering what sort of architecture, legal or regulatory, needs to be put in place to limit the most dangerous parts of it, even as we seek to benefit from its upsides. I thank Mr. Speaker, and I commend the statement maker.
From Communications Minister Eslo Ekufu, who says Parliament will soon be called upon to legislate the use of AI.
They are scared at the potential damage that it can cause if it is not properly regulated. And so once this document, our strategy has been has gone through Cabinet, we'll bring it here for Parliament's input as well, because I think it's very important. And we can also show the way for the rest of the continent. I must thank the House for approving the digital acceleration policy as well, and inform you that the project attained effectiveness on 5th June, meaning the World Bank has approved it for us to start implementing it. And the good thing about this is that the NCA will be supported under this Ghana Digital Acceleration Policy to develop regulatory mechanisms to address new and emerging technologies, because there are regulatory and legal gaps. When our NCA Act and Electronic Transactions Act were passed in 2008, none of these major innovations had taken place. We've used these laws for a long time, but now we need to look at the legal and regulatory gaps in them and work to address them. And thankfully, the Digital Acceleration Policy project will provide them with the needed funding to look at that. Now, machine learning, augmented and extended realities, artificial intelligence, all raise interesting challenges that we need to address. And
officials of the New Plant Station face possible charges of violating environmental rules after the Clean Ghana team discovered an illegal connection of waste from the station directly into the Korle Lagoon. The District Environmental Officer of the Ablekuma South Sub-Metro of AMA, George Lawson, who led the inspection team on Wednesday morning, expressed grave concerns of the unlawful act and directed the team to rectify the anomaly immediately. Prince Owusu-Ansah was with the Clean Ghana team, and here is his report read to you.
No, but so we are only against you for
this is the head of welfare at the New Plant Station at Accra Circle, Al-Hassan Kasim, refuting allegations of violating environmental rules.
If not today, I don't even know something like that. But no, you know, from your explanation.
The AMA sanitation team charged the management of New Plant Station environmental regulations by openly discharging feces into the Korle Lagoon.
Renovate the septic tank.
Thank you for your
Okay, so you leave. I got it. Yeah. So we'll give notice to that effect.
No problem.
The soak pits receiving effluent has a direct connection to the Korle Lagoon, resulting in the contamination of the water body. George Lawson is the District Environmental Officer for the Ablekuma South Sub-Metro.
They are discharging effluent into the water body, that's the Korle Lagoon. And by so doing, they pollute the lagoon.
He asked the task force team to shut down the washroom that serves as a facility for many travelers and market women.
Further considerations, the team has decided that the toilet should be closed down temporarily for further renovation works to be done on it.
Meanwhile, the head of welfare at the New Plant Station, Al-Hassan Kasim, expresses concerns that the closure of the washrooms would leave users of the facility stranded.
You see, here, we all know how the situation of circle, these thieves, and in the night, if somebody want to ease himself, going outside is a risk.
He added that management will resolve it since it is a threat to the environment.
What is the way forward? Is improving the place. What I saw there was not the best. No plan station, you understand. So the way forward is to make sure to improve the place.
The District Environmental Officer for the Ablekuma South Sub-Metro, George Lawson, says the Assembly will continue to enforce environmental regulations. A report by Prince Owusu Ansa, read to you.
We're still live on Joy News today. We're coming to you from our studios in Kokomlemle. We are on the Fraunhofer Street. Let's take a break. When we return, we have all the latest from the world of business.
Hello, good afternoon. Warm welcome to the business segment on Joy News today with me, Pius Kojo Baka. Registrar of Companies Jemima Wari is urging professional bodies in the country to get registered or renew their certificates with the Office of the Registrar of Companies. According to her, organizations that fail to follow this directive risk being taken out of the existing register. She was speaking at an engagement with some firms. The Office of the Registrar of Companies is entreating professional bodies in the country to get registered in order to be recognized and to legitimize their operations. The professional bodies are also required to renew their certificates annually. Speaking in an engagement, Registrar of Companies Jemima Owari cautioned recalcitrant firms to renew their certificates to avoid the removal of their names from the company's register.
And the law specifically states that you have to renew on an annual basis after January, 1st of January. You have to renew every professional that's in your professional body. And by renewing, you pay 30 Ghana cedis for each member. And we'll give you a certificate to show that you are in good standing. It was very clear that some are not professional bodies anymore. They've moved on. Some have been chartered and all that. So we just have to carry out the processes of taking them up. But many of them acknowledge that they didn't even know they have to renew for each member. And so now they have promised to carry on. And so I've given them from Monday up to the end of the year. They should make sure that they renew and update us. And after December 31st, if you haven't renewed, what you're telling us then is that you are no more a professional, but then we'll take your name off the register.
Honorary Secretary of the Ghana Institute of Planners, Kenneth Keto, welcomed the directive, saying it will help to ensure legality and sanitize the system.
We have a lot of people who are practicing but do not come under any authority. I also have a lot of people who come together claim that they are professional bodies. And because there's nobody to actually regulate, it's making the practice, the true practitioners, they have not actually been seen. For instance, as planners, we have a lot of people who claim to be doing planning works. And frankly speaking, they are not planners. So at the end of the day, I'm sure everybody will start blaming that planners we are not working. But not everybody who is a planner. So if the body comes to place with their certification, it also helps to sanitize the professional world.
Professional bodies are expected to have a 75% membership in order to be recognized by the Office of the Registrar of Companies. Now, government has expressed its commitment to reduce carbon emissions and achieve the global temperature target of 1.5 degrees Celsius by 2050. Speaking at the University of Ghana Business School's Management Week celebration, Minister of Lands and Natural Resources John Abujinapo disclosed that Ghana's actions have earned the country a 4 million fund to boost the fight to mitigate the impact of climate change. Here is more. The Management Week celebration of the University of Ghana Business School is aimed at fostering collaborations between industry and academia to advance discussions on pertinent socio-economic issues. This year's ceremony, which happens to be the 43rd, discussed the climate change and actions to mitigate its impact. Delivering the keynote address, Minister of Lands and Natural Resources will feed into the global climate agenda of becoming carbon neutral by 2030.
The Cocoa Forest Red Plus program, which was launched by President Akufo-Addo in 2019, has already recorded emission reduction of 972,465 tons of carbon dioxide equivalent for the first accounting period between June and December 2019, which has been verified and validated. This has generated resource-based payment of 4,862,280 United States dollars, which we have begun receiving. This makes Ghana the second country in Africa and the third in the world to receive resource-based payments from the Carbon Fund.
The project coordinator for Drive Electric Initiative Ghana, Doris Agbavivi, called for the localization of climate action plans in order to curb the effects.
We need to localize our climate action. This is where I talk to the crowd, but where I come to the university and where I come to institutions is how do we localize our climate actions? Localization of climate actions is what brings climate change to the doorstep of our own homes and our own institutions and of soil.
Speaking on reporting practices, Associate Director, Accounting and Advisory Services at KPMG, Randolph Ano, called on consumers and businesses to consider engaging in institutions who are green sensitive.
You and I can make a change. And one of the key changes you and I can do is that we have the purchasing power. So when you are patronizing things, you're asking yourself, am I contributing to the reduction or am I contributing to the increase in the climate issues?
The Pro-Vice Chancellor in charge of academic and student affairs at the University of Ghana, Professor Gurdon Awandari, pledged the university's readiness to champion climate action.
At the management level, we'll be looking to see how we can provide the leadership for our university to again show the way, like Mr. Ano said, as the premier university, we have to always lead by example, so we shall do that.
The celebration was held on the theme, Accounting for Climate Change and Environmental Sustainability, the role of our collective responsibility. And that's all for business for now. I am Pius Kojo Baka. My colleague Darrell Kwa will be here at 1 p.m. with The Marketplace. Sports is next.
Muftau Nabila Abdullah here with sports on Joy News today. And former Western Regional Football Association Chairman Kojo Iyanka, he has declared his intention to contest for the position of President of the Ghana Football Association. According to him, Kurt Okoeko has divided the football community and he is putting himself up to be the unifier of Ghana's football.
It is time for us also to help develop the game.
Okay.
So I'm offering myself for the position so that I can also contribute my quota to develop the football in the country.
Mr. Yanka, you were part of the previous administration of the Ghana Football Association. In fact, you are an executive committee member. You headed the Western Regional Football Association for a number of years. What are some of the loopholes that you think that Mr. Yanka is a perfect man to fill these holes?
I have decided that for now, it's about my declaration for the presidency.
Okay.
But my manifesto and what the things that is going on that I want to, that has prepared me to contest, I'll bring them out later on. Because I'm preparing, putting things together to say things that is going wrong and the things I want to do for the association. So for now, it's about my declaration. And at least on two things, I think we need to look at it and we need to speak about it. It's the love between us is no more there. The unity between us is no more there. And I think that has brought a lot of divisions among ourselves. So for now, it's about the love that we had previously that is gone, and the unity we had previously that is also no more for now. But my manifesto and the things going wrong in the association, I feel we need to tackle and do a lot of changes. I'll come out with it later on.
Black Stars of Ghana, they will come up against Madagascar in the qualifiers for the African Cup of Nations 2023. It is the match day 5 of the race for who qualifies to the next edition of the tournament. Ghana is seeking to participate in the competition and probably or possibly end the country's about 40 years of waiting to lift the title. Former Black Stars captain Asamoah says that Ghanaians should lower our expectations for the head coach, Chris Hilton.
Yeah, every coach builds a team. You know, I think he needs time and patience to make sure we build a team. You know, for me, what I always say is we should limit our expectation. Now, sometimes we should respect, although it's been 40 years, you know, we have to just forget about everything, build a team once again. If it's a 5-year or 10-year plan, this is what we want to do. You know, but every tournament, of course, Ghana is a football nation, but the expectations are so high, and sometimes put pressure. You know, when we structure everything well, like 3 years, 5 years, or 10 years, we need to win a cup. Then you build a team. Forget about the results. When you get to the tournament and it happens that you're going to win, it's a bonus. That is not a plan, but it's a bonus. You know, so everything is about structuring, and I think when we have a bit of patience for Chris, with his experience and everything is up to him. It's either he delivers or not. So it's two things.
That's your sports for now. We do have more sports stories on myjoyonline.com, and also at 2 p.m. when we come your way with sports today. I am Muftau Nabila Abdullah. Up next is World News.
For the bulletin this afternoon too. And as I leave you with the state institutions failing to patch potholes. Some residents of Bokrom in Kumasi are filling up the holes with coconut husk. The residents say the poor nature of their roads is causing serious accidents. And Abwachi Yadom exposes the hazardous road network for Joy News' Ghana Potholes exhibition.
Here you go. Government serving us. In fact, drivers here with the best. You get a cup and you say cheers. One road, several potholes.
A good number of roads in Ghana are left with dangerous potholes. Major road networks in Kumasi are no exception, as the roads are inundated with deep circular depressions. Some motorists have experienced the damages that go beyond mechanical repairs in these craters.
Before you can move straight from this particular stretch to wherever you are going, you must pass through this particular pit.
The well-adorned road is now a death trap with praiseworthy traffic growth. Potholes have developed on this road. They refuse to work on just this particular stretch. We've complained so much about the traffic over here. It is obvious that these potholes are fast developing into manholes, putting the lives of motorists and commuters at risk. But state institutions in charge of covering them up show up at work and do nothing about it.
Several potholes. 1, 2, 3.
Yes, sir. To some of these road users, this is a life-threatening pit.
Almost there 3 months, number 2 accidents.
I came across an accident almost a month ago. As government institutions yawn on patching up the holes, some residents fill the riddled bitumen with debris to lessen the impact of vehicles slumping into holes. Sometimes they attempt to fill these holes with just anything, sometimes with coconut husk.
Menam kwan so 94 nam nante kwan so. Sam na yemfutu kwan atimaka na enam ha. Ekire no mbe ye kwan. Ti kwan ya fe de won kase enam so ka bebre na enam so. I
started using this road around 1994. This is a busy road, but government isn't ready to fix it for us. We, the drivers, could fix it ourselves. This is very disheartening. The rains, however, washed away the debris, and with a few more slumps into the small holes, the bitumen chips at the edges and become deep holes. As these potholes continue to widen, water seeps into the weakened underlying soil as the heavy vehicular load fatigues the poorly asphalted surface.
So just as government says it deserves credit for free senior high school, one district, one factory, planting for